Ambassador Kalnins, former Honorary Consul Robert Bloomberg's, my business partners, Tom Handler, Steve Thayer, Mark Anderson, family, friends, thank you for coming to this momentous event for me that provides me with an opportunity to provide service to a country where my father was born and that I and my 3 children are actually citizens of. It's my first time to Latvia was in 1989, and as many of you know, that was when it was still part of the Soviet Union. I was a 16-year-old sophomore in high school, never been out of the country, never been on a plane. And my grandparents came up with this idea, as well as my parents, to travel to the Soviet Union to go back to the old country. So we boarded a plane out of Chicago, went to Helsinki, took a ferry over to Estonia and a bus down to Latvia. And for a 16-year-old to see that what was and what now is easily the most eye-opening experience in my life. If you would have told me, that 16-year-old sophomore in high school, that I'd be standing here tonight giving a speech on this occasion, I would have said, obviously you're crazy, because there's no way the Soviet Union is ever going to voluntarily let go of Latvia. But what happens? Things change. Things changed a lot, as all of you know. Things changed for my father's family when he was, they had to leave their beloved homeland after World War II in order to not only look for a better life, but to survive due to my grandfather's job in the local community. It's either leave or be killed. So what once was a very wealthy family found themselves in a position of bribing themselves onto a German freighter in order to escape the country after World War II, and to all places to escape to, Germany. In Germany, they lived there for a little over 4 years in a German refugee camp, praying that a sponsor would sponsor them over to some other country in the world. And after about 4.5 years, a small Lutheran church in southwestern Wisconsin stood up and said that they would sponsor his family. The rest, the extended family, was not part of that deal, so they've been split up for their family basically their whole lives. But they felt that this was the best opportunity for them, and it was, otherwise I wouldn't be here today. And they boarded a ship, came through Ellis Island. My aunt was quarantined for 2 weeks for measles. And then they eventually made it over to southwestern Wisconsin, where my parents still live today. And it's that kind of background and that kind of hope and inspiration and looking for a better life that really, really makes me proud to be here and looking to do whatever I can, because they finally found a home and they were alive. I've been back to Latvia 12 times since 1989. My grandparents, after the wall fell, were able to get some of their properties back. So I have relatives over there. We have very good relationships over there. We look at over the properties. We hit other countries on the side. And it's always been fun. It's been very gratifying. I always felt more of a connection with the people in Latvia as far as the relatives that I have over there. Not really having the opportunity to be part of a Latvian community in Chicago, because in southwestern Wisconsin, believe it or not, there aren't many Latvians there. But come to Chicago, they're about 10,000 strong. And it's one of those things that changed. It's changed once again, because it's by happenstance that I was out with a client one night and he said, hey, I want you to go over and meet some of these individuals that are in the business sector that, you know, it might be a good opportunity for all of us to meet. And I said, fine, let's go have a drink. And it's at that point I met an individual that changed my life forever. I call him Joe Latvian, but the rest of you know him as Mikas Keynes. And I was sitting across the table from him and I said, Mikas Keynes, that's a very Eastern European name. What kind of name is that? He says, oh, I'm Latvian. I go, Lavaka. He says, Kalnins. And the look on Mickey's face of just shock and horror that there was a Latvian in Chicago that he didn't know about. I don't know if it was a look of joy or just dejectedness because he didn't know, of all people, a Kalnins, especially in Chicago. So that's really when I started getting to know the Latvian community about 7 or 8 years ago. He introduced me to so many people, Robert Bloomberg's, everyone else. I became involved. We set up the Latvian American Chamber of Commerce, which myself, Andy Valkmi, Andy Sukers, Andy Johansson, Peters Freemans are on the board. And we have a bunch of places around the country now with other places that are part of this, and it's growing. And I was just over in Latvia last summer giving a speech in Valmiera about what European businesses need to know about doing business in the US. We have another event coming up in Denver here in a few weeks. So it was my ability to come across somebody by happenstance that has really allowed for me to be here tonight. Well, a little bit about Latvia too. It's a population of about 2 million people, smaller than Chicago. Used to be bigger. People are spreading out more. If you can count the diaspora, it's more around $3 million of 3 million individuals from around the world. But it's a small community. But if you look at what they've been able to produce and the arts and the cultures, I've been to 2 symphonies over at the Chicago Symphony Orchestra led by Latvian conductors. We have 4 players in the NBA that are currently playing. The art, the work ethic, the educational aspect of Latvia. It's a very highly educated population. I very much recommend that people check it out. If you're thinking about expanding a business, starting a business, Latvia has a great economic environment, reasonable taxes in order to do so. And in fact, you may have remembered that book, The Millionaire Next Door, that was written a number of years ago by Tom Stanley and William Donka. And in that book, they listed the top 15 economically productive small population ancestry groups in the United States. I know that's a lot to put in there. But Latvian Americans are ranked number 2, only behind the Israelis in economic productiveness in the US. So thinking about that and trying to keep the rest of us up with those kind of statistics and having a proud type of culture and being able to create is what I'm all about, and that's why I'm here tonight. So again, thank you all for coming, especially my family and my wife, Melanie. She has never complained about my involvement within the Latvian community. In fact, she's embraced it. I remember the first time we went to Latvia, it was in the winter because she wanted to see it in its authentic state. And as we were looking across the river, the Daugava River, it was frozen over, and she says, I want to walk across the river. So we did, and we survived. And she's been back 2 more times since there. My children have all been back twice, and I really appreciate it. Melanie, estev mil. Now, at this time, I ask you to raise your glass for a toast to the future social, societal, and business relationships between the Latvians and the Americans. Prieka. It's my pleasure to introduce, of course, Mr. Senator Dick Durbin, who is our special guest. I'm so happy that he could make it here tonight, and he's also a fellow Baltic individual. His mother was born in Lithuania. So my dad was born in Latvia, his mother was born in Lithuania. He also, as you heard earlier, is part of the Baltic Freedom Caucus. He is actually vice chair along with Chuck Grassley out of Iowa. And we could not be happier to have him here. And with that, I'd just like to have him come up here and say a few words if he would.